All right. Hello, everybody. I am really sorry that I'm not with you today. I was really looking forward to being at the Analog Astronaut Conference. I am okay. Do not worry. But my doctor's nurse and I conferred, and she said, if you don't feel like getting on the plane, don't get on the plane. You know, that's what you go to med school for, I guess. And I didn't feel like getting on the plane. I wanted to, but I didn't feel like it. So I'm here and I'm just delighted to be with you virtually. I want to talk to you about an idea, really, and it's the idea that we are the new astronaut corps. And I'm hoping that when this session ends, you'll have a different understanding of yourself and of the analog astronaut community and of ourselves as a movement. And this all starts with a shift in perspective, which Zen Buddhists talk about. My son Josh is a Roshi, a Zen Buddhist Roshi. It's about as high as you can get. And, he and I are writing a book about the overview effect and Zen Buddhism. And in rereading what we had written, I came across something that the Buddha said, and it's really important for us to see this. He said, you don't get enlightened. You can't seek enlightenment. It is something you are. You are the Buddha. What you have to do is clear away what's in your vision and blocking your vision to see that you're already enlightened. And so as I go through the talk, I think you'll see why I brought this up. So here we go. The beginning of the idea of the new astronaut corps goes back to Inspiration 4. And as you may know, 4 friends competed, all members of various different communities, including the Overview Roundtable. They were Loretta Whitesides, Mary Liz Bender, now Mary Liz Chilinsky, Cyan Proctor, who is there, I know, and yours truly. So I thought it would be fun to look at the videos that we all produced when we were competing to be in the 4th seat on Inspiration 4. And what happened that really led me to this insight was that you had to make a video, but then you had to get it on Twitter. Remember Twitter? And I made the video, but I couldn't make it work on Twitter. And so I asked Mary Liz to help me. And she did, of course, and she helped me get it on there. And as we were doing that, I thought, there are not that many people competing for this position. Mary Liz could, in theory, being hurting her chances by helping me. Now, of course, I knew she would help me because that's who Mary Liz is. But I thought, that's kind of like it must be that way for NASA astronauts in the sense that, they're all competing for flights. They all want flights. They're type A. That's how they got to be astronauts. But then they're friends, and they have to be happy when their friends get a flight. And so that gave me the idea we are the new astronaut corps. And it also ended up producing these videos. And I thought it would be fun for us to watch them today. So here we go, and I will start with Mary Liz.
My name is Mary Liz Bender, co-founder of Cosmic Perspective. This is one of my favorite places on the planet. Standing next to Starship, talking to the people and the families here, I'm reminded of a quote from Apollo astronaut Frank Borman. Upon returning from space, he was asked to describe his experience, and all he could say was, "We should have sent poets." Artists, musicians, storytellers, they inspire us. They help us dream of a bright, exciting future, and then we come together to begin building it today. And as an artist, I'm inspired to keep that cycle going. But almost all artists in history could only imagine what it would be like to actually be in space. I've had the incredible opportunity to talk to astronauts about these moments, how we're all crew on Spaceship Earth that becomes real to them. This is a transformation called the overview effect. Today, the first all-civilian mission is assembling its crew, and for the first time, people of all backgrounds can embark on this adventure. As a touring musician, I witness how art can unite us. Seeing a crowd of people experience awe together is unforgettable, but it's hard to take a drum kit to space. These are Mimu music gloves. Using motion and gestures, I can conjure up any instrument imaginable. I've always dreamt of taking an entire orchestra to space, and now I might actually have the chance. Making this kind of inspiration accessible to all is a big part of our mission and business. At Cosmic Perspective, we use music, films, virtual reality, interactive art, and live shows to amplify the beauty of this adventure. Also, an amazing opportunity to share the human experience, personally, what it's like to train, launch, fly, and return to Earth. As someone who didn't finish high school, I never thought I'd have a chance to fly to space, not in a million years. I was such a lost kid. I even battled homelessness. But somehow art found its way into my life and it inspired dreams of a better future. And now I want to pay it forward. Because of this new space era and inspiration for I just might have the chance. And to support St. Jude, who saved one of my family members, I am so honored to share and support their mission.
And then we have our very own Loretta Whitesides, founder of SpaceKind, Yuri's Night, and so many other important parts of the new astronaut corps.
When I was in graduate school at Caltech, I had everything going for me. I was on track to be selected to be an astronaut, maybe even the first woman to walk on the moon. The only problem was I was miserable. Luckily, my JPL mentor intervened. He helped me see that even walking on the moon wouldn't be a big enough achievement to help me like who I was, help me feel like enough. I realized that was the mission that I was going to have to complete first. My most important journey. A journey I've been on for the last 20 years. That's why I launched SpaceKind. It's a new kind of space training. It helps you not only get to space, but like the person you are when you get there. Because who we are when we get to space, it's going to set a precedent for generations to come. Feels like this is a really important time for humanity. We have an incredible opportunity to use the move into space, make some critical course corrections in how we treat ourselves, how we treat each other, and how we treat our home planet. We're not passengers here. This is a spaceship. That's our windshield. It's got a pretty epic view of the galaxy. We don't treat it like that. It's time for us to step up and become crew of Spaceship Earth. Come join us. Come begin your own hero's journey. Fulfill your dreams and become the person you've always wanted to be. Our next course starts on May the 4th. Come train alongside me as we both prepare for our first space flights. And do it soon, because we need more awesome crew for this magnificent Spaceship Earth.
And now for something totally different. And to be honest, after watching those two videos, I almost didn't show you my own. But hey, to be complete, let's watch it.
My name is Mary.
Hello, my name is Frank White, and I'd like to take a moment to share with you why I'm hoping to be selected as a member of the Inspiration4 crew. Like the sponsor of this flight, I am an entrepreneur, but probably not the kind you normally think of. My work is in the domain of ideas. That's where my products are, that's where my services are. And I'd like to share with you the idea of the overview effect. This is the experience of astronauts and cosmonauts when they see the Earth from space and in space. They see a beautiful world without borders or boundaries, one that is uniquely suited for human life. And they take note of the fact that we're all in this together. I wrote a book about this topic that was published in 1987. And it's now entering its 4th edition, which will be published this year. If I am selected for this flight, I will always share the message of the overview effect. I will share the message that we are all members of the crew of Spaceship Earth, that everyone on planet Earth has a role to play. Everyone is important. I will also share the message that this experience is not just for the wealthy, the powerful, and the privileged. It's for everyone. And in fact, I've stated many times that I believe the experience of the overview effect should be seen as a human right. I will also bear in mind something else that the astronauts told me on more than one occasion, and that is this: you don't go into space for yourself. Indeed, you go into space for all of humanity. All right. And now we have the winner, and I think many of you know that was Cyan Proctor. And I have to tell you, after I saw this video, I knew I'm not winning, but I am excited for Cyan because I knew she'd won it.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Cyan Proctor, and I'm a geoscientist, explorer, and analog astronaut, and I have dreamed about going to space my entire life. I actually came that close when I was finalist for the NASA astronaut selection process in 2009. But what I am most proud of is the fact that I have been a teacher at the community college for the past 20 years, and I have been able to inspire hundreds of thousands of students through my education and outreach. My entrepreneurial spirit lies in the fact that I combine space art with poetry. And my shop is called My Space to Inspire, and I've written an original poem to share with you. You've got space, I've got space, we all have space to inspire. That's why we dream of going higher and higher. But what is space if you can't breathe? Let's stop sucking out the air of our humanity. We have a moment to seize the light, Earth from space, both day and night. We have J for justice, to ignite the bold. We have E for equity, to cut past the old. We have D for diversity, to end the fight. We have I for inclusion, to try to make it right. A Jedi space to rally behind, a universal force so big it binds. Inspiration to change the world, a new beginning for us to hold. It's not about you, it's not about me, it's about space to inspire for all of humanity. Science, technology, engineering, and math, sending us out on the explorer's path. But don't forget the arts, the heartbeat of time. Consider sending a poet who knows how to rhyme. So let's drop the mic and close the capsule door. But please make sure Dr. Proctor is on board. My Space to Inspire is what we need. Inspiration for all of humanity. I hope you will go out and use your unique space to inspire those within your reach and beyond. Thank you.
Wow, I've watched that several times today, and I still get sort of tearful seeing it again. Cyan, I know you're there, and you should have won, you did win, and you've done wonders with that opportunity.
Hi,
So we're talking about a new astronaut corps, but what about, no, we're not going to say the old astronaut corps. I don't like that. I'm going to say, what about the originals? Starting in 1961 and for many years, 60 years, they went out there and they risked their lives really to lay a foundation for us to follow. And, they accomplished a lot, especially around the topic I care a lot about, which is the overview effect. They didn't go there to look at the planet and see it from a distance. They went there to do other things, but they discovered the overview effect. And I have a little clip here about Earthrise that I think summarizes it perfectly.
All right, we're gonna roll. Ready? Well, the impact crater was at just by the correct solar point on the south side, and the floor of it indicating that there is one dark hole, but I couldn't get a quick enough look at it to see if it might be anything volcanic. Yeah, look at that picture over there. There's the Earth coming up. Wow, that's pretty. Hey, don't take that. It's not scheduled. Got a color film, Jim? Hand me a roll of color. Oh, man, that's great. Where is it? Quick. Out here, just grab me a color. A color right here. There you go. That one? Yeah, I'm looking for one. D368. Anything, quick. Here. All right. You missed me. I got it right here. Let me get out this a lot clearer. No, I got a phrase that's very clear right here. Got it? Take several. There's several up here. Wait, I don't have to get the right setting. Calm down, Mama. Oh, I got it right. Oh, that's a beautiful shot. 250 at F11. Now there's exposure. I did. I picked you up. You sure we got it now? Yeah, he'll come up again, I think.
I really love that because it's so human. They were sent to look at the moon, and it starts out they were, and then the Earth appeared, and very human, calm down, Lovell. What an interesting interaction there at such a critical moment. And of course, we got the blue marble from Apollo. If somebody ever asks you, well, what have we gotten out of all this space stuff? Well, how about the environmental movement? Not that there wasn't one before, but this picture and the other pictures from Apollo just boosted the movement incredibly.
Did it give you a sense?
I was not surprised to see that the Earth was indeed the fragile.
I'm sorry, we have so many astronaut pictures I can't show you. I just want to show you this one because there's kind of a new NASA astronaut represented by Tracy Caldwell Dyson. who actually is on the International Space Station as we speak. And I interviewed her at Johnson Space Center in 2019. Just want to give you a little bit of that,
I was not surprised to see that the Earth was indeed the fragile.
if I can.
Did it give you a sense of
There we go.
purpose? Not just for you, but for us humans?
Maybe it's semantics, but rather than a purpose, we had a responsibility.
Okay.
And one of the great responsibilities I think we have is to protect it. Like
Sure.
I said, you know, we've got
little baby.
little baby
Yeah.
that's trusting us with everything. And it's, you know, you know, you can really stretch that metaphor that this baby is so full of potential. This baby is going to grow.
Yeah.
And it's going to take care of us someday. We've got to do everything we can to make sure that it has what it needs to do that.
Mhm.
So when you look at the Earth from that vantage point, I know others have said this, you don't see the borders. You don't see political borders. You hardly see geographical borders. You know, you just have this sense of, I don't want this to go away, and I don't want to be the only one to see this. Because as I said, I grieved over how I was going to tell people about this, to bring home what I was feeling. In fact, I think my first experience looking at all of that was again on the shuttle flight. And I remember at one point, my vision became blurry, and I panicked a little bit. Like, what's going? I want to see that it's going to go away, and you know, rubbed my eyes, and I discovered I was actually tearing up. And in microgravity, right, the way fluid behaves, it just balls up on your eyes. That was the emotional response I was having unknowingly. I just was, you know, feeling something as I was staring at this view of the whole thing. And it moved me to tears unknowingly.
I was not surprised to see that the Earth
Is there, it sounds like in terms of the way I've described it, you did. So now we really have the new astronauts. And there's a lot in common with the recent crop of NASA astronauts like Tracy. One is the emotional feeling of seeing the Earth in this new way. And the other is confirmation. Yeah, there is an overview effect. And here's Katia Echezarreta, who first Mexican-born woman to fly into outer space, courtesy of Space for Humanity. And, you know, she was also the first citizen astronaut for Space for Humanity. And here's what she told me. It sounds like in terms of the way I've described it, you did experience something like the overview effect. Am I right?
So I'll tell you a story. And I still don't know what to make of it. But on my flight back home, it was the first time I take a plane after this experience. And I still don't know what happened to me. I haven't really been able to think about it too much. Again, it feels like a dream. I kind of come back and feel in a weird way, still somewhat normal. And then I'm on that flight back, and I actually never take a window seat. I prefer aisle, but this time I had to take window. There were no other seats. And we're flying back from Texas, and we're flying over the same mountains that I saw from space.
Yeah.
And I started crying.
Oh, really?
I just started crying, but like deeply crying, and the kind where you're just like shaking up and down as the tears come out. And I didn't know why. I wasn't sad. I wasn't necessarily feeling, you know, happiness the way that we usually know it. I wasn't really feeling any of that. I was feeling normal, actually. Yeah. I felt very normal, and yet I couldn't stop. And I got some napkins and kind of wiped my face and tried to look away. And then I looked back, and it just happened again. And I couldn't stop it. And that's when I realized how much it had actually touched me without me realizing it.
And then many of you know Dylan Taylor. And here's what he told me just hours after he came back from his Blue Origin flight.
You know, everyone's describing the same thing, but they're describing it in a different way with their own context, with their own, but it's all different versions of the truth, right? And that's the other thing, you know, I saw Scott Parazinski after the flight and he looked into my eyes and we had this connection. And I know Scott pretty well, but I think he could tell, you know, he could tell I had been transformed, and he kind of had that look in his eye, like, okay, I know where you are right now. And it was a weird, you know, it's almost like you're in a foreign country and you run into someone who speaks your language, and it's like all of a sudden you have that connection because you have that bond that you just other people don't have because they just don't quite have the full picture. And I know now why it's so transformational, because it is so unique. It's just, yeah, it's really powerful. And this whole notion of, can you experience the overview effect on suborbital? I'm here to tell you, yes, 100% yes.
It sounds like,
You know,
and we're really at a critical point now, because what's going on with this new astronaut corps is we're moving towards something Gerard K. O'Neill predicted 60 years ago, moving from mission to migration. That is really the mission of the new astronaut corps, is to go beyond missions and to set up large-scale space habitation or migration. And I want to talk about that, and then I'll close. And I'm sorry, my little dog Maisie Dobbs is here, and she always wants me to say a word for Laika. Yes, Maisie, Laika was important. Yes, she was. I was at the New Worlds Conference in Austin in the fall, and Trent Adams, who actually married Mary Liz and Ryan, said something that really triggered part 2 of this idea of the new astronaut corps. And he said, the analog astronaut movement is preparing people better than almost anyone for living permanently off the planet. And it's true. And you know it is true. And that just gave me an epiphany. And what I saw is that the new astronaut corps exists. And here's an organizational chart. We have commercial flights, SpaceX and Blue. We, of course, have you, the analog astronaut team and missions. We have virtual reality experiences like the Infinite. And Trip VR has a beautiful overview effect VR experience. We have our own space universities, International Space University, Kepler Space University, and so on. And then we have nonprofits galore, the Human Space Program, Space for Humanity, and so on. And then, of course, we have people training us. We have SpaceKind, and we have Cosmic Citizen trainings. We just have to see it. As the Buddha said, we have to get out of our way whatever is preventing us from seeing that we are the new astronaut corps. And I'll be happy to share this with anybody, but we even have great statistics. Virgin Galactic's flown 21 people, Blue Origin's flown 31. Axiom has put 12 people out there on the International Space Station. And of course, we have Inspiration4 and so on. We don't know at the moment how many people have done analog missions. We do know that 400,000 people have actually seen the Infinite, probably the best VR experience of the overview effect that's been created. And so I want to leave you with this idea of who we are and who you are and how magnificent together we are in shaping future history. And I think we need to do it with the awe and wonder of my friend here, the young astronaut who will, of course, be part of the new astronaut corps in the future. And I asked Dolly 3 to create an appropriate closing video or picture, and it came up with the notion of really it's not just humanity, it's life on Earth moving from Homo sapiens to Homo spaciens. Of course, you're already an astronaut, you're an analog astronaut, but I hope you'll look beyond that as the Buddha asked us to, and just be the magnificent person that you already are. And welcome to the new astronaut corps. Thank you so much.
Frank, thank you so much. And we're going to keep you on here for QA, so don't go anywhere.
Okay, I'm
you have
here. Casey's here if anybody has a question about
Yeah,
lifetime.
so that was really incredible. Thank you for sharing your thoughts and also for that generous sort of demonstration that I think brings a lot of people together in the concept of collaboration, which can be co-owned with competition, as you made it very clear. You were working together all through that. So that's pretty powerful stuff. Thank you. Are there any questions that we have for Frank while we have him on the phone and on video?
Thank you. It's not really a question, it's an observation based on the political space that we're in right now. The Pact for the Future draft document has been prepared. That will be, I guess, signed at the UN summit in September. And it has a paragraph on space, not much, just a small paragraph. And one of the conversations we've been having, I think this idea for new astronaut corps is timely. And I was happy to see Moon Village Association there because I'm a member. And one of the conversations we're having is, how are we going to create an antidote to the nation-based approach? And it's interesting because the session we had just before this was about community. And I questioned the fact that there was not global on her list of places, because we have to start seeing ourselves not as a nation-based organization, but a planetary organization, to break ourselves from the mindset of the traditional warfaring mindset of going forward. This is critical. And so one of the things I am proposing, which probably will be added to your group, is the Space Matters Impact Coalition that will be formed coming out of the just finished UN Civil Society Organization Conference, that will be formed by people like us to sort of be the monitoring what the governments are doing, but again, from a broad perspective. And I think having people who consider themselves part of the new astronauts corps, even if it's a philosophical construct, would be good to people signing up with that name. I'm signing up as a member of the new astronaut corps. So thank you for putting that out there, and let us make it a planetary movement as opposed to a nationalist movement.
Thank you so much. I agree with you fully. And I do think that, you know, we can actually have this shift. We've seen what's happened with the originals and the new astronauts. We need to get as many people out there to have that experience as we can. And we also need to create experiences with virtual reality and other tools so that this shift can occur. And then I think we'll move beyond the narrow confines of the current system we have.
That was a great question. And thank you, Frank, for bringing that to everybody's attention. So no more borders in our next version of life elsewhere. Yeah.
No, you can see it right behind me. It's right there. Question. There's nothing to discuss. There it is. Maisie.
Hey there, Frank. It's your friend Rochelle here.
Hey, how are you? Good to talk to you.
Yes, we miss you here in person. Wish you were
I
here.
miss you too. I miss all of you.
Yeah,
So much.
well, you're definitely still here with all of us and even at a distance.
Yeah,
But
I'm
I
there, spirit.
definitely, definitely. Well, it's always a privilege to hear you speak, and I think that every time I do, I take something away from this experience. And something that stood out from today's talk was the tears. Was that something that you've seen with many of your interviews where part of the overview effect? I know it's an emotional response, but this body reaction, the physical reaction of water collecting in your eyes, like, has that been something that you've seen across the board with many different people? Very curious to hear your thoughts.
I will put it this way. Initially, I didn't hear many astronauts talking about crying. I think Frank Borman, even if he did cry, wouldn't admit it. That wasn't his style or his background. Um, Over time, as I've interviewed more people, I've heard more people talking about the emotional side of the overview effect and admitting I cried when I first saw the Earth. And it's in my book that that it is happening more and more often. And I think it's partly because it's more acceptable to society to say that. But I can't recall who told me this, but I'm pretty sure one of the astronauts said that almost every astronaut had tears when they first saw the Earth from orbit. And most of them I've talked to, it was from orbit. It's been more recent. I think it's a good thing. I think, you know, I hope all of us get to cry as we see the Earth for the first time.
Thank you, Frank. And we had another question.
Hi, Frank. Holly with the Inspired 24. So my question is, we say space is for all, and we know the reality of it is it's not at this moment. How do you think we need to approach that? I have a disability, and I know that at this moment I can't go to space, but I don't want to be left out. And there's many of us that don't want to be left out. How do we start to approach that in a manner that's actually, feasible and that's going to work? So
Yeah.
what your thoughts were?
Well, like any movement, I think we have to be direct and keep saying it until people listen to us, because it is critical. There is a counter narrative out there that we're working to create a playground for billionaires. I'm not doing that, are you? No, we're not. We're not creating a playground for billionaires. Our goal is space for all. And I have said before, you know, Dylan Taylor said it. He said something about, it reveals the truth. You see the truth. It's the truth of our situation in the universe. And that is really critical. And I have said many times that experiencing the overview effect should be a human right. I would like to put that before the United Nations, because if it's the truth and if it's reality, yes, every human being should get to experience it. And I think that's the way we do it. I will say, going back to disability, I'm old enough to remember when there wasn't a Disability Act in this country and people didn't think we needed one. And there was a movement to create it. And thank goodness that happened. So everything starts with an idea and then it gets realized with a movement. So that's what I would do. And I would start right now, just insisting space is for everyone, including dogs.
Okay, what's your dog's name again?
My dog is named Maisie Dobbs.
Maisie. All right, Maisie, you're in there with us too. We have another question from your friend, Michelle.
It was, hi, Frank. It was just kind of carrying on. I just wanted to share back to that question about tears. There's a This American Life episode that interviewed several people and realized that a lot of people get really emotional when on airplanes. And a lot of people also start crying with movies and films. And so I think that is also a really interesting area to investigate of you're kind of in this luminal space, this transition space. So you're much more sensitive to what's happening around you. And you don't have this sense of home and like a location to anywhere. And so I that just kind of came to mind of, wow, hearing these interviews that you just recently did with the astronaut corp, how that might be such a beautiful thread that people can relate to, because so many people fly in planes. And I think we've all, for some reason, had that experience where a movie is just a little more emotional than usual, or the song that you're listening to just hits harder. And of course, I'm always thinking about how can you use those tender moments of the overview effect and then insert that with a creative artistic experience and see how that resonates.
Right.
But
Yeah, that's a really good point. The epiphany I had that led to the overview effect was in a plane looking out the window. And interestingly enough, I've had repetitions of it recently because I prepared for it and wanted to see if I could have it again. And I did. We talk a lot now with the new astronaut corps about how do we train people to experience the overview effect most powerfully. And it's interesting, we don't train people anymore to fly on planes. It's just another thing we do. And that's unfortunate because I had a freelance writer interview me for Air Canada magazine, and she told me that she had done research and she had come across at least 5 case studies of people on airplanes who'd had major breakthroughs in their thinking. And I think you're right. It's a liminal space. But what happens is we numb ourselves. Just let me get through this rather than let me experience this. And I think we could have a profound effect on humankind by getting people to think differently about how they fly.
That's a really interesting perspective of both of you shared. And I was thinking about how in that space, to use a analog, we're both departing from something that is emotional and we're going to something that is emotional. So yeah, that's very powerful observation, both of you. Any other questions for Frank?
I have a quick question.
Okay.
I'd love to know from the analog astronaut community what happens emotionally on analog missions. Not today, we don't have time, but I'd love to know more about the emotional side of that experience.
Well, that's definitely part of the data. I think WBA is working really hard to standardize. And
Great.
so I bet you anything, they would love your insight on some of the questions that they're going to create a framework to do so. So we had one more question from the gentleman here.
Okay.
Hi, Frank. Thanks for your talk. Tim Griepenschlag with Inspired24 and SpaceKind 11. My question for you is, in my experience in the space community, I come across all kinds of people who seem to have made it their personal mission to bring the awe of space, as you've done through all your work, to ordinary people who it hasn't captured yet. Obviously, we can look around this conference, we can go on YouTube, there's no shortage of people that are trying to do this work. In your opinion, how good of a job are we doing at that? And if there's room for improvement, maybe where have we gone wrong and what can we do better? Thank you.
Well, there's a couple of things to say. One is, I think we've done a pretty good job. I've been working on this officially for 40 years, and I've seen an evolution in understanding to the point where now, if you say the overview effect, a lot of people will know what you're talking about. And I get a Google alert every time the term is used, and I get them frequently. I really do. So I think we've got a good start. Have we gone wrong? I think if anything, we have not communicated that one, it's for all of humanity, and two, we do care about the environment. There's a counter narrative that we're abandoning the home world, that we are trying to get away from the climate change and other issues we face. And I don't know anyone in our movement who says, let's give up on the earth. I think we'll do better on Mars. I don't know anybody who is, maybe they're just not saying it, but it's not part of our ethos. The ethos is we do this to benefit the earth, and we do it really. I mean, if you listen to Rick Tomlinson, we do it for all of life, and I agree with him. So I think the messaging needs to be honed and always to benefit that beautiful blue sphere behind me. And I have started trying very hard. I can't say try. If you're a space kind graduate, you have to just do. Sorry, Loretta, but I have been attempting to change the language and to say there are spaceborne environmentalists and earthbound environmentalists, or spacebound environmentalist and earthbound environmentalist, because I believe we're all environmentalists. And I think our language betrays us to create division, even though we don't intend to. So there, Moon Village and the Human Space Program recently co-created with Christina Starr, who might be in the audience, and her team. We co-created a session called Making Space for the Environment on Earth Day. I think we need to do a lot more of that. So overall, though, I think we're doing well. And I just think, given the situation on Earth, the only thing that we can do better is to speed it up, because it's needed.
Well, I know that we're all grateful to have people like you and others that you've worked with that are in the room here and in other speaker rooms doing all of that. Everybody here is working together towards the same end, and we really appreciate you being here, Frank. And any last words you want to share before we sign off?
I noticed as I was speaking that I was feeling a lot better. I think you've helped me so much, everybody, even though I'm not really there. No, I just want to say in conclusion, I'm just incredibly grateful that the ideas that we all hold so dear are beginning to gain a little bit of traction on this planet, because Gaia, Earth, our mother, oh, it is Mother's Day, incidentally, tomorrow, as we know, that, you know, we are beginning to get the word out, and I think we're going to be successful in the end. So thanks to everyone. Thanks for having me. And next year, I'll do my best to be well and to be with you in person. Thanks again, everybody.